Gentlemen and ladies, I want you to understand a truth today, a principle that is often overlooked in the pursuit of love, respect, and attraction. You see, a man is naturally drawn not merely to a woman who chases, pleads, or clings, but to a woman who understands the power of her own value, who knows that her life is not dependent on the attention or approval of anyone else. When a woman detaches not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect, she awakens a force within a man that he cannot ignore. Detachment is not rejection. It is a demonstration of worth, confidence, and independence. It is a signal that she is complete on her own, and paradoxically, this completeness becomes magnetic. Men by design are compelled to respond to strength, grace, and the quiet certainty of a woman who does not compromise her dignity. Today, I want to reveal to you the timeless principle: men cannot resist women who master the art of detachment. And as we explore this together, I will show you not only why this is true, but how embracing this principle transforms relationships, influence, and even your own life. There is a force in human relationships that is rarely taught, rarely understood, and yet profoundly influential in the dynamics between men and women. It is the principle of detachment, a concept so simple yet so transformative that when properly understood, it shifts the very foundation of attraction, influence, and emotional connection. Detachment is not indifference. It is not coldness, nor is it a strategy of manipulation or mind games. Rather, detachment is the conscious decision to stand in one's own authority, to recognize one's inherent value, and to refuse to compromise dignity in the pursuit of attention, approval, or affection. It is the understanding that one's life, purpose, and fulfillment are complete in themselves, and that a relationship, while desired, is never necessary for personal wholeness. The woman who detaches demonstrates a mastery of self-awareness, for she knows the difference between neediness and desire. Neediness drives attachment. It drives compromise, desperation, and the erosion of boundaries. Desire, on the other hand, flows from strength, from completeness, and from the understanding that connection is a choice freely given, not a demand that must be met. When a woman detaches, she radiates a magnetic energy that a man cannot ignore. He senses her strength, her confidence, and her unwillingness to be dictated by fear, insecurity, or longing. And paradoxically, it is precisely this absence of neediness that draws him closer, capturing attention in a way that pursuit alone could never achieve. Detachment is also a demonstration of clarity of purpose. A woman who detaches is focused on her life, her goals, her dreams, and her spiritual, emotional, and intellectual growth. She is not distracted by the whims, mood swings, or approval of others. She is deliberate in her choices, selective in her associations, and committed to her personal evolution. And because she stands firmly in her purpose, she naturally attracts men who are themselves aligned with strength, ambition, and vision. The principle is clear. Men are drawn to women who are already whole, not those who are incomplete. Attraction is not about changing someone. It is about revealing the natural connection that exists when completeness meets completeness. A detached woman also sets boundaries without apology. She communicates what is acceptable and what is not, what she will tolerate and what she will not. This boundary setting is not rooted in fear or control. It is rooted in self-respect and in the understanding that every interaction, every relationship, and every commitment must honor the dignity of all involved. Men, by design, are responsive to clarity and strength. They are compelled to engage with women who are firm yet fair, who act from authenticity rather than from desperation, who require respect as a non-negotiable standard rather than a negotiable option. In this way, detachment is a powerful tool of influence, one that commands attention without force, draws respect without demand, and inspires desire without manipulation. Detachment also requires emotional intelligence, for it is not simply a physical or social act, it is a mental, emotional, and spiritual posture. The woman who detaches does not react impulsively to every slight, criticism, or challenge. She chooses her responses carefully, guided by wisdom rather than instinct. She understands that emotions are tools, not masters, and that the ability to navigate emotional currents with calm authority distinguishes her from those who are ruled by fear, envy, or anxiety. This composure creates a sense of mystery and intrigue, a space in which men are naturally compelled to engage, to explore, and to seek connection. Finally, detachment is a reflection of ultimate freedom. Freedom from dependency, freedom from fear of loss, freedom from the need to control outcomes, and freedom from the compulsion to perform or please. A woman who detaches stands in her personal sovereignty, acknowledging that her worth is not contingent upon external validation. She is liberated in every interaction, empowered in every choice, and magnetic in every encounter. Men cannot resist this, not because they are weak, but because the human heart is drawn to authenticity, strength, and the demonstration of true value. The principle is timeless, universal, and irrevocable. A woman who detaches does not push men away. She awakens a force within them that commands attention, respect, and desire in a way that chasing or clinging could never accomplish. A woman's true power in any relationship begins with her understanding of her own value. Value is not defined by the attention she receives, the approval she seeks, or the presence of someone else in her life. It is defined by her awareness of who she is, her purpose, her capabilities, and the standards she chooses to uphold. When a woman embraces her value fully, she no longer negotiates her dignity, her peace, or her identity for temporary validation. She becomes a force that naturally commands respect and inspires attraction without effort. Self-respect is the outward expression of this internal value. A woman who respects herself sets non-negotiable boundaries in her life and in her relationships. She understands that compromise in matters of principle is not strength but surrender. She recognizes that every choice she makes either elevates her worth or diminishes it, and she consciously chooses elevation. This conscious practice of self-respect communicates clearly and powerfully to others, and men, whether consciously or subconsciously, respond to it. They are drawn to strength because it reflects stability, maturity, and reliability, the qualities they seek in a life partner, consciously or unconsciously. Understanding value also means detachment from outcomes that cannot serve her growth. When a woman detaches from the need to control how a man behaves, thinks, or feels toward her, she gains an uncommon freedom. This freedom allows her to focus on her purpose, goals, and spiritual, emotional, and intellectual development. She is not caught in the cycle of seeking approval, chasing affection, or proving worth. Instead, she cultivates a life that is vibrant, fulfilling, and complete. And paradoxically, it is in this state of wholeness that she becomes irresistible. Men are not attracted to lack, they are drawn to completeness. They are magnetized by women who know their value and act accordingly, for this radiates confidence, strength, and authenticity. A woman who embodies value also understands the dynamics of influence. Influence is not manipulation, it is the natural effect of aligning oneself with principle, integrity, and strength. When a woman refuses to compromise her self-worth, she sets a standard that demands recognition. Men are naturally responsive to such standards because they signal clarity of character, consistency, and the presence of leadership in her life. This does not mean she is controlling or unyielding. Rather, she is deliberate, self-aware, and grounded in the truth of her value. Moreover, value and self-respect cultivate a sense of independence that cannot be ignored. Independence does not mean isolation or emotional detachment from connection. It means the ability to thrive in one's own life, to make decisions from strength rather than fear, and to participate in relationships from abundance rather than deficiency. This independence signals to a man that a woman's life is already full, her joy already present, and her purpose already unfolding. This is the essence of attraction, not desperation, but the magnetic pull of authenticity and self-sufficiency. Finally, the woman who practices the principle of value and self-respect teaches a silent lesson to men, that love is not to be begged for, attention is not to be coerced, and connection is not to be demanded. It is to be freely given to those who recognize, honor, and align with true worth. And in living this truth, a woman does not merely influence men, she elevates the very nature of the relationship itself, creating interactions rooted in mutual respect, admiration, and desire. This principle is timeless, universal, and undeniable. Men are irresistibly drawn to women who understand and live out their own value with unwavering self-respect. Attraction is a force that cannot be manufactured, coerced, or forced. It is not the result of pleading, begging, or constant attention. True attraction flows naturally when principles of human behavior, psychology, and value are honored. And one of the most powerful forces in creating irresistible attraction is the principle of detachment. Detachment is the conscious decision to maintain one's dignity, self-respect, and independence, regardless of external circumstances or the behavior of others. It is a profound acknowledgement that one's life is complete in itself, and that connection, while desired, is never demanded. A woman who detaches creates space Space is not emptiness, it is presence in its purest form. When she is not constantly available, not always responding, not always seeking approval, she demonstrates that her attention is valuable, her time is precious, and her worth is non-negotiable. This space creates intrigue, curiosity, and natural pursuit. Men, by design, are wired to seek that which appears elusive yet attainable, strong yet graceful. Detachment does not push them away. It awakens a desire to engage, to understand, and to earn the connection that is offered freely, not demanded. Detachment also influences attraction through the display of confidence. Confidence is magnetic because it signals inner strength, purpose, and security. A woman who detaches shows that she is not defined by the whims, approval, or presence of any man. She is grounded in her principles, focused on her goals, and committed to her growth. This self-assuredness is captivating because it communicates a sense of reliability, emotional maturity, and stability, qualities that men are instinctively drawn to, whether consciously or unconsciously. Men respond to energy and presence, and a woman who stands firmly in detachment radiates an energy that cannot be ignored. Moreover, detachment creates a natural balance in relationships. When a woman does not overextend herself emotionally, when she does not chase or cling, the relationship dynamics shift. The man is no longer in a position of complacency or entitlement. He becomes active, attentive, and engaged. Detachment does not manipulate. It clarifies roles, responsibilities, and boundaries. It invites men to step up, to pursue authentically, and to demonstrate respect and commitment. By being detached, a woman encourages the highest expression of masculinity in the man, for men are naturally drawn to respond to strength, clarity, and presence. Detachment also enhances attraction because it conveys emotional intelligence. The woman who detaches does not react impulsively to every perceived slight, uncertainty, or challenge. She observes, she assesses, and she responds with wisdom and discernment. This emotional mastery creates an aura of mystery and intrigue, for men are naturally compelled by calm, composed, and centered energy. Emotional independence communicates that her happiness, peace, and purpose are not contingent on external validation, and this autonomy awakens admiration, respect, and desire. Finally, detachment aligns with the universal law of reciprocity in relationships. When a woman is detached, she naturally attracts men who are aligned with strength, vision, and integrity. She does not settle for less. She does not compromise principles for temporary attention. And in this alignment, attraction becomes effortless. Men do not resist her because they are weak. They are drawn to the clarity, confidence, and completeness that she embodies. Detachment transforms relationships from transactions into connections built on mutual respect, admiration, and authentic desire. This principle is timeless, universal, and undeniable. Men cannot resist women who detach because detachment signals strength, self-respect, and value. It creates magnetic presence, encourages pursuit, and establishes dynamics of authenticity and alignment. A detached woman does not beg for love, she inspires it. She does not chase attention, she commands it. She does not compromise her dignity. She elevates every interaction into one of respect, admiration, and profound attraction. True irresistibility is not born from appearance, charm, or even constant attention. It is born from independence. Independence is the mastery of self, the understanding that one's happiness, purpose, and fulfillment are not contingent upon another person. A woman who achieves this state of independence becomes magnetic, not because she is distant or unfeeling, but because she embodies strength, confidence, and self-sufficiency. Men cannot resist women who live fully, freely, and unapologetically in their independence. Independence begins with self-awareness. A woman who knows herself, her values, her goals, her dreams, and her worth requires nothing from anyone to feel complete. She engages in relationships from a position of abundance, not deficiency. She does not seek validation, approval, or reassurance to define her identity. Instead, she brings fullness into any interaction, creating a space where connection is mutual and empowering rather than dependent or desperate. This sense of completeness is profoundly attractive because it mirrors strength, purpose, and maturity, the qualities that men respect and desire in a partner. A woman who embraces independence also demonstrates clarity of purpose. She is focused on her life, her growth, and her mission. She understands that her energy, time, and attention are valuable, and she allocates them wisely. Men are drawn to women who are purposeful because purpose reflects discipline, vision, and direction. Independence communicates that she is not aimlessly waiting for someone to complete her. She is already complete. And any partnership is an enhancement, not a necessity. This perspective shifts the dynamic entirely. Men are compelled to pursue, to invest, and to rise to the level of engagement she naturally inspires. Boundaries are an essential expression of independence. A woman who is independent sets firm, clear, and non-negotiable boundaries. She does not tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or compromise of her values. These boundaries are not walls. They are markers of self-respect and standards of interaction. Men instinctively recognize and respond to these boundaries because they signal that she is intentional, disciplined, and discerning. Independence, therefore, is not merely freedom from reliance, it is a framework of strength that invites respect, admiration, and authentic connection. Independence also cultivates emotional resilience. A woman who is independent is capable of managing her emotions, navigating challenges, and maintaining composure in difficult situations. She does not react out of fear, insecurity, or neediness. Instead, she acts from wisdom, understanding, and deliberate choice. This emotional stability is irresistibly attractive because it conveys confidence, self-control, and the ability to engage in healthy, balanced relationships. Men are drawn to women whose emotional state is steady and secure, for it allows them to interact without the burden of managing unpredictability, desperation, or drama. Finally, independence amplifies the principle of attraction through the demonstration of personal freedom. A woman who is independent lives fully in her purpose, her passions, and her potential. She does not sacrifice herself to please others, nor does she compromise her life to maintain connection. Her independence is a living testimony that happiness and fulfillment are internal, not external. This freedom creates a magnetic energy that cannot be ignored. Men do not resist her because she is controlling or distant. They are drawn to the strength, clarity, and confidence she radiates. Ultimately, irresistibility is the natural outcome of independence. A woman who detaches, values herself, honors her principles, and lives independently does not chase attention, she commands it. She does not beg for love, she inspires it. She does not compromise her worth. She elevates every interaction to one of respect, admiration, and authentic attraction. Independence is not merely a personal achievement, it is the cornerstone of influence, magnetism, and relational power. Men cannot resist women who have mastered this art, for it embodies strength, dignity, and the timeless principle of authentic allure. There is a principle, hidden in plain sight, that governs attraction, influence, and relational dynamics between men and women. It is the principle of detachment. To detach is not to reject, ignore, or neglect. It is to understand the value of your own presence and the power of your own independence. Detachment is the conscious choice to refuse to compromise your dignity for the attention, approval, or affection of anyone else. It is a force that transforms the way you are perceived, not through manipulation or coercion, but through the quiet demonstration of strength, self-respect, and purpose. Detachment is the ultimate declaration of self-worth. It tells the world, and most importantly the men around you, that you are complete, whole, and sufficient in yourself. You are not defined by anyone's opinion, you are not molded by another's approval, and you are not compelled to bend or break to satisfy fleeting desires. This completeness is magnetic because men, like all human beings, are naturally drawn to strength, confidence, and wholeness. When a woman detaches, she stops pursuing validation and begins radiating authenticity. She does not compete for attention, she commands it by the mere presence of her independence. A detached woman is deliberate in her actions. She does not react impulsively to every slight, criticism, or situation. She chooses her responses carefully, with wisdom and insight. She understands the power of patience, the value of timing, and the importance of allowing space for natural attraction to grow. In doing so, she creates intrigue. Mystery emerges not from secrecy, but from the careful maintenance of her autonomy and the refusal to be consumed by the need for constant affirmation. Men sense this, feel the challenge, and are drawn to engage with her more deeply, not because they are forced, but because they are compelled by her presence. Detachment also demonstrates emotional intelligence. A woman who detaches does not allow her emotions to dictate her interactions. She is calm, centered, and composed. She understands that true power is not in reaction, but in measured response. Emotional restraint signals strength, stability, and maturity, qualities that men instinctively respect and desire. By remaining independent in her emotions, a woman teaches men how to value, pursue, and appreciate her in a manner that aligns with her principles, not theirs. Furthermore, detachment fosters self-sufficiency. A woman who is detached is not dependent on external validation for her happiness or fulfillment. She engages in her passions, develops her talents, and pursues her life goals with unwavering commitment. Her life is vibrant, full, and complete, and any relationship she enters becomes an enhancement to her already abundant existence. Men, by instinct, are drawn to such completeness because they recognize the strength and autonomy that accompanies it. Detachment is not coldness, it is power, grace, and magnetism combined in their purest form. Detachment also redefines attraction. Men are naturally drawn to women who are unavailable in the sense that they are not desperate or needy. When a woman is detached, she demonstrates that she has standards, she values herself, and she does not settle for less than what aligns with her worth. This natural standard setting evokes respect and admiration, and it inspires pursuit rather than complacency. The principles of attraction dictate that what is freely given without effort is less desired than what is consciously chosen, earned, and appreciated. A detached woman becomes the embodiment of this principle. Finally, detachment empowers a woman to rise above drama, insecurity, and dependency. She is free to focus on her purpose, to nurture her gifts, and to attract the right people into her life without compromise. This independence is magnetic because it communicates strength, clarity, and authenticity. Men cannot resist women who detach because they operate from a place of completeness, confidence, and self-respect. Detachment is not about pushing people away. It is about commanding respect, inspiring desire, and establishing the dynamics of genuine attraction.